If you have been scrolling through your phone lately and seeing headlines about citizenship being stripped away, investigations into prominent figures, and talk of a massive immigration crackdown, I completely understand why you might be feeling anxious right now. The fear is real. The confusion is real. And when you see words like citizenship probe and crackdown in the same sentence, it is natural to wonder what this means for you, for your family, or for people you care about. But I want you to take a deep breath right now because that is exactly why I am here today. I am going to walk you through everything you need to know, separate the facts from the fear, and give you the clarity you deserve. Welcome back to Real Guide Updates. I am Umar, and this channel exists for one reason only, to give you calm, accurate, and trustworthy immigration news without the panic, without the politics, and without the speculation. If this is your first time here, I want you to know that we do not do sensationalism. We do facts, we do explanations, and we do it in a way that respects your intelligence and your time. So let us get into what is actually happening with the Mamdani Citizenship probe and the broader conversation around immigration enforcement that has been dominating the news cycle. First, let me give you some context about who we are talking about. Faisal Mamdani is a name that has been appearing in headlines recently, and the reason is that questions have been raised about the circumstances surrounding his naturalization as a United States citizen. Now, before we go any further, I want to be very clear about something. When you hear the word probe in the news, it sounds very dramatic. It sounds like something massive is happening. But in legal and governmental terms, a probe simply means an investigation or an inquiry. It does not mean someone has been found guilty of anything. It does not mean citizenship has been revoked. It means that authorities are looking into something. That is an important distinction because the way some outlets report this, you would think decisions have already been made, and that is simply not accurate. The questions surrounding Mamdani's citizenship reportedly involve whether there were any misrepresentations or omissions during the naturalization process. This is a serious matter, of course, but it is also something that has a defined legal process. In the United States, citizenship cannot just be taken away on a whim. There are constitutional protections and legal procedures that must be followed. So while this case is certainly newsworthy and worth paying attention to, it is not an indication that citizenship is suddenly fragile or that naturalized citizens across the country should be panicking. We will get into exactly how denaturalization works in just a moment, so you understand the full picture. Now, let us talk about the broader theme of immigration crackdown that has been in the news. This term gets used a lot, and I think it is important to understand what it actually means versus what it sounds like. When media outlets use the phrase immigration crackdown, they are typically referring to increased enforcement activities by agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is known as ICE, or Customs and Border Protection, which is CBP. This can include more arrests, more deportations, more workplace raids, or stricter enforcement at the border. However, the term crackdown itself is not a legal term. It is a media term designed to convey intensity. And while enforcement activities do fluctuate based on administration priorities and available resources, the actual laws governing immigration do not change overnight just because enforcement increases. This is a critical point I want you to hold on to. Enforcement and law are two different things. The laws that determine who can come to the United States, who can stay, who qualifies for visas, and who qualifies for citizenship are set by Congress. These laws are written in the Immigration and Nationality Act, and they do not change based on headlines or executive mood. What can change is how aggressively those laws are enforced, where resources are allocated, and what priorities are set by the administration in power. So when you hear about a crackdown, what you are hearing about is enforcement intensity, not a fundamental change to your rights or the legal framework that governs immigration. Now let me return to the Mamdani situation and explain exactly how citizenship investigations work, because I think this will bring a lot of clarity. In the United States, once you become a naturalized citizen, you have the same rights as someone who was born here, with very few exceptions. The most notable exception is that a naturalized citizen can, in theory, have their citizenship revoked through a process called denaturalization. But this is extraordinarily rare and extremely difficult to accomplish. The government cannot simply decide to take away someone's citizenship. They have to prove in federal court that the citizenship was obtained illegally or through fraud. There are essentially two ways denaturalization can happen. The first is through a civil proceeding, where the government files a lawsuit and asks a federal judge to revoke citizenship based on evidence that the person lied or concealed material facts during the naturalization process. The second is through a criminal proceeding, where the person is prosecuted for unlawfully obtaining citizenship, and if convicted, denaturalization can be part of the sentence. In both cases, the burden of proof is on the government, and the standard is very high. The government has to prove that the misrepresentation or concealment was material, meaning it was significant enough that it would have affected the decision to grant citizenship in the first place. I want to give you some real numbers here to put this in perspective. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people become naturalized citizens of the United States. In contrast, denaturalization cases are measured in dozens per year, not hundreds, not thousands. The vast majority of naturalized citizens will never face any kind of inquiry into their citizenship. The cases that do get pursued typically involve serious issues like concealing criminal history, lying about identity, or hiding involvement in persecution or war crimes. These are not cases of innocent mistakes on paperwork. These are cases where the government believes there was intentional fraud on significant matters. So when you hear about a citizenship probe like the one involving Mamdani, it is important to understand that this is an investigation into a specific situation involving specific allegations. It is not a signal that all naturalized citizens are suddenly at risk. It is not an indication that the government is coming after everyone. It is a legal process being applied to a specific case, and that person will have the opportunity to defend themselves in court if charges are brought. Now, I know some of you watching might be thinking about your own situation. Maybe you made an innocent mistake on your application years ago. Maybe you are worried that you forgot to mention something or were not sure how to answer a question. Let me address this directly because I know this is where a lot of anxiety comes from. The naturalization process asks many questions, and some of them can be confusing. If you made an honest mistake, if you misunderstood a question, or if you forgot a minor detail, that is generally not the kind of thing that leads to denaturalization. The government is looking for intentional fraud for people who knowingly and deliberately lied about material facts. They are not going through files looking for typos or honest errors. That said, if you are genuinely concerned about something in your immigration history, the best thing you can do is consult with a qualified immigration attorney. Not a notario, not someone on social media, not a friend who knows someone. A licensed attorney who can review your specific situation and give you proper guidance. I always encourage people to get professional advice when they have legitimate concerns, rather than spending months or years worrying about something that might not even be an issue. Let me also address some of the rumors and misinformation that I have seen circulating online about this topic. One of the most common things I have seen people saying is that the government is going to start mass denaturalization, that they are going to review everyone's files and start stripping citizenship from thousands of people. This is not accurate. There is no legal mechanism for mass denaturalization in the United States. Each case has to be handled individually, and each case requires evidence, a legal proceeding, and due process. The resources required to pursue even a single denaturalization case are significant. The idea that this could be done on a mass scale is simply not supported by how the legal system works. Another rumor I have seen is that if you have ever received public benefits, you could lose your citizenship. This is also not accurate. While there are rules about public charge that can affect certain immigration applications, receiving benefits after you become a citizen does not put your citizenship at risk. Your citizenship is secure once it is granted, as long as it was obtained lawfully and honestly. I have also seen people saying that dual citizens are at higher risk or that people from certain countries are being targeted. I want to be very careful here because I do not want to dismiss anyone's concerns, but I also have not seen credible evidence of a systematic targeting of naturalized citizens based on country of origin. If you have specific concerns about your situation, again, the right move is to consult with an attorney who can give you personalized advice based on the facts of your case. Now let us talk about the broader immigration enforcement situation because I know many of you have questions that go beyond the Mamdani case. There has been a lot of news about increased enforcement activities, about arrests in communities, about workplace raids, and about changes at the border. I want to give you some clarity on who is actually affected by these activities and who is not. If you are a lawful permanent resident, meaning you have a green card, your status is secure as long as you do not commit certain crimes that could make you deportable or take actions that could be considered abandonment of residence. Lawful permanent residents have strong rights and protections, and while increased enforcement might make you feel nervous, it does not change your legal status. If you are a naturalized citizen, as we discussed, your citizenship is protected by the Constitution. You have the same rights as any other American citizen. You can travel, you can vote, you can live and work anywhere in the country. Increased enforcement does not affect citizens. If you are on a valid visa, whether that is a work visa, a student visa, a tourist visa, or any other type, your status is determined by the terms of that visa. As long as you are maintaining your status, meaning you are doing what your visa allows you to do and not overstaying, you are in legal status. Enforcement activities are generally not targeting people who are in valid legal status. The people who are most affected by increased enforcement are those who are in the country without legal status or who have final orders of removal. If someone has been ordered deported by an immigration judge and has exhausted their appeals, they are a priority for enforcement. If someone entered the country without inspection or overstayed a visa and has no pending application or protection, they are also potentially at risk. This is not new. This has been the case under every administration. What changes is the intensity and focus of enforcement, not the underlying legal framework. I want to take a moment here to speak directly to families with mixed status. I know this is an incredibly stressful time for many of you. When you have some family members who are citizens or green card holders and others who may be undocumented, the fear of enforcement can feel very personal and very real. I want you to know that having a plan is important, knowing your rights is important, and having access to legal counsel is important. Many communities have organizations that provide free or low-cost legal help to immigrants, and I encourage you to connect with these resources if you need them. One thing I always tell people is to know their rights during an encounter with immigration authorities. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to speak to an attorney. You do not have to open your door to immigration officers unless they have a warrant signed by a judge. You do not have to sign any documents you do not understand. These rights apply to everyone, regardless of immigration status. Knowing these things does not make you a criminal or suggest you have anything to hide. It just means you are informed about your constitutional protections. Let me also remind you about the importance of official sources. When you want to know what is actually happening with immigration policy, go directly to the source. The website for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services is USCIS.gov. The website for the State Department, which handles visas and consular matters, is state.gov. For information about border enforcement, you can visit cbp.gov. For legislative information, congress.gov will tell you what bills have actually been introduced, what has passed, and what has become law. These sources might not be as exciting as a social media post or a dramatic headline, but they are accurate. And in immigration, accuracy matters more than drama. I also want to mention that immigration policy discussions are ongoing in Congress. There are always proposals being made, debates being had, and ideas being floated. But a proposal is not a law. A bill that has been introduced is not the same as a bill that has passed. And even a bill that has passed both houses of Congress is not law until it is signed by the president. The legislative process takes time, and it involves many stages. So when you see headlines about proposed changes, remember that there is a long road between a proposal and an actual change to the law. This brings me to an important point about staying informed without becoming overwhelmed. It is good to be aware of what is happening. It is responsible to stay updated on developments that might affect you or your family. But there is a difference between being informed and being consumed by anxiety. I encourage you to check reliable sources periodically, but do not spend all day reading every article and watching every video about immigration enforcement. That is not healthy, and it will not change your situation. Focus on what you can control, which is maintaining your legal status, keeping your documents in order, having a plan, and knowing where to get help if you need it. Let me circle back to the Mamdani case one more time, because I want to make sure you leave this video with a clear understanding. This is a specific case involving specific allegations against a specific individual. The investigation will follow legal procedures. The individual will have the opportunity to defend themselves, and there will be a judicial process. Whether or not the allegations have merit will be determined by the evidence and the courts, not by headlines or social media posts. And regardless of how this case turns out, it does not change the fundamental protections that exist for naturalized citizens in the United States. The Constitution provides strong protections for citizenship. The 14th Amendment says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. This is not something that can be changed by executive action or enforcement priorities. It is enshrined in the Constitution, and it takes a constitutional amendment to change it, which is an incredibly high bar. So while individual cases may generate headlines and anxiety, the broader legal framework remains stable. Now, as we wrap up this video, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. First, I understand why you might be feeling anxious. The headlines are designed to generate clicks and views, and they often use alarming language to do so. But headlines are not the same as reality. The reality is more nuanced, more procedural, and less dramatic than the headlines suggest. Second, due process exists for a reason. In the United States, you cannot have your rights taken away without legal proceedings and the opportunity to defend yourself. This applies to citizenship, to deportation, and to virtually every other aspect of immigration law. The system has safeguards, and while it is not perfect, it is not arbitrary. Third, information is your best defense against fear. When you understand how things actually work, the mystery and anxiety diminish. That is why I do what I do on this channel, to give you the information you need to feel informed and empowered rather than scared and confused. Fourth, if you have specific concerns about your own situation, please consult with a qualified immigration attorney. I cannot give legal advice through these videos, and your situation may have unique factors that require personalized guidance. There is no shame in seeking professional help, and it is always better to get accurate information about your own case than to rely on general information from any source, including this channel. Finally, I want to remind you that you are not alone. Millions of people are navigating the immigration system in the United States. Millions of families have mixed status and share the same concerns you might have. There are communities, organizations, and resources available to help. You do not have to face this by yourself. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to Real Guide Updates and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. When important news breaks, I want you to hear the facts from a calm, reliable source rather than from sensational headlines. If you know someone who might be worried about these issues, please share this video with them. Sometimes the best thing we can do for someone we care about is to help them replace fear with understanding. I also want to hear from you. Leave your questions in the comments below. Tell me what topics you want me to cover next. Let me know what concerns you have, and I will do my best to address them in future videos. This channel is here to serve you, and your input helps me create the content that matters most to you. Thank you for watching, thank you for trusting Real Guide Updates, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.